1, 2, 1, 2. Testing. Yeah, good. Hey guys, I think.
Morning, colleagues. For the last morning. Welcome everybody to our last session with Prof. Panos. For those who haven't been here, I see some 2 or 3 new faces. Welcome to you. And also to our live stream participants doing it from their offices. Welcome to you as well. I hope you will find this experience good, and please give us feedback on that as well. It's a project that we run at the university to try something that we can collaborate better over 3 campuses. And so this session is about reflection for learning, and I think it's been all over the literature that reflection is a good method to when you focus on learning. So students need to reflect. However, they hate it in many cases because if you just ask them to do it, they won't do it. There should be marks attached and all those kind of things. So I think Prof. Panos will share a lot of ideas with us how they actually infuse that into the curriculum and to the modules. So we are very excited about that. Prof. Panos is from the University of Macquarie University in Sydney, Australia. So he's here for a visit with the Centre for Teaching and Learning. And his experience is in teaching and learning. Currently the Associate Dean of Quality and Standards in Teaching and Learning at the university. So he has been around a lot of countries and a lot of experience. So we are excited to hear from you, Prof. Panos. And please do engage. When you want to ask a question, please just wait for the mic. We'll bring it to you. Otherwise, the live stream, people can't hear your questions. We will also, the live stream questions, take them during the process. Then we have coffee at the back. If you just go outside. Oops, Auntie, that's my phone. If you can just go outside and have some coffee if you feel like you need. However, we will have a break. Okay, so we will have a break.
So we'll have definitely.
11 o'clock you'll have a break. Okay, so thank you, Prof. Panos. You are welcome to start, and please enjoy.
Thank you. Okay. Welcome everyone. Welcome to some of the new faces to this session, and welcome to the people and kind of know now for 5 days, which is quite good and very familiar. Just to add a bit to the introduction Yolani presented. So I'm Macquarie University in Australia, north part of Sydney. A relatively old for Australian standards university, 1964 it was established. Large metropolitan university, 41,000 students, and 5 different faculties, including medicine and health science, which is the latest faculty that we established a few years ago. Engineering, science, arts and humanities, where I belong as an associate dean, quality and standards. I just want to say that there is, in our portfolio, there's a quality and standards associate dean and in learning and teaching. That we are a team, we work together, but because of the complexity of our portfolios, we have to have 2 people dealing with the different requests that they come about. We also have faculty of business and economics and a faculty of human science, which absorbs more the psychology, cognitive science, some sort of audiology, so a place between humanities and health, just to put it in that kind of space. We are a university established in 1964 as a university, and I still recall our Vice Chancellor talking about the 50 years of the university when that happened. It was a university in the middle of nowhere, a university with pretty much no roads or anything, and it was a place for people to come and study that they couldn't really make it to a university in terms of their life conditions. Like there will be people that they will work, there will be people that there will be parents, and the university was open. So at that time you will see a lot of mothers with their children running around in the university, and it was actually a beautiful atmosphere. What I'm trying to say is that we are proud of the history of the university being a flexible, open and innovative university, and they try to keep this tradition. In terms of students, we have every kind of student that you can imagine, meaning a lot of Australian students. We have a number of international students. I think at the moment, if I'm right, our rate is around 16 to 17% of these 40,000 students are international students. And they come from a diverse area, but in our area, it's predominantly from Southeast Asia. A lot of Chinese students, a number of Indonesians. The Faculty of Arts and Humanities, they also have a lot of exchange programs, and we have a lot of visiting students going off for exchanges and doing different things. So all of this brings complexity to the curriculum, brings complexity and challenges to the ways you teach. We also are one of the biggest providers for the Open Universities Australia, which is a consortium, a partnership of universities for fully online distance learners. So an example will be that we run one module in 3 different modes. There will be students in the class, there will be students in a fully distance system through Open Universities, and there will be Macquarie distance students that normally they will come and go. They will come for some face-to-face, and they will be fully online. And when we design for something, that happens for everything. So reflection actually is one of the good mechanisms, if we introduce it in the right way, that it can make students be aware and grow, self-aware and self-growth, which is all about it. I've been involved with reflective practice now since 2003, so that's around 15, 16 years almost coming to it. Actively practicing on a number of ways. I meet lovely people where I meet. At the moment, my good partner, Marina Harvey, that is now in the University of New South Wales, and myself, we've been working on a number of projects. One of which actually is the result of this workshop that we put together, and now we have run on a number of campuses with a number of people. And yeah, we just want to advocate it, and we are happy to share all the resources for you to run this kind of thing. We truly believe that a reflective session at the beginning of each year, each term, it gives a very good push and boost to the students about how they're going to go about learning, if they get it and if they understand it. So all of these resources you're going to see today are freely available. You should all have a pack. I would just need to check. You should all have a pack with the copies of the PowerPoint, plus you should have access to the folder on Google Drive. You should all have something called reflective debrief templates. these are something you're going to be using today, but they are also instruments that you can use with your own students. They are Word documents, so you can repurpose them, reuse them. They are all openly Creative Commons. They are all free to reuse. Copy them, do whatever you want with them, yeah? You should have a copy of 2 articles that I will refer to. And then you should also have a reflection evaluation rubric, an example of a rubric that you may want to use for assessing. And very importantly, you should have, let me see that's here, a GRASS survey. Yeah, it's called Scholarly Retreat, the Groningen Reflection Scale. Yeah, you all have one copy of this one? All right. Our online people, they might not have this because it was not in the pack, but we should put in the chat a link to an online version of it. Before we even start, I would like to tell you that this instrument is one of the most validated instruments for understanding how reflective you are at this stage in your mind. And we ask academics and students to fill it in. It's a very quick calculation that can happen at the end, and then you have a bit of a self-awareness where you are in terms of being open to reflection. And then what we do, we ask our students normally to retake this at the end of the session, and we try to see whether there is a shift. By doing this, we also get some very good results. This is fully anonymized, yeah? It only needs to have a unique identification number, so that's the only thing we do. And you can do some very good things. You can actually use this on an ongoing basis, on a weekly basis, if you go as an evaluator. The questions, they're very, very personal. So I would like to ask you to start with this today, do the first part, and then I'm going to do exactly the same thing before we close. Now, the unique, I would like you, because normally what I will do is I will have like a little sticker that I will ask my students to have, so they can have a number. But what I ask them to do is on the top of the instrument, just write something. So normally I will ask for you to write your month and year of your birth. So if it is May 1978, it will be 05978. So it's anonymized, I don't know who you are. So maybe you use your month and your year of your birth, and you just write it on the top. And the only reason I want this is then we can match what you do at the end. And then when I go away, I can calculate them, and then I can send you some of these results in that case. So just put your month, the full, 05 or 01 or 12, and then 19, whatever it is. So it should be a six-digit number that you write there. Yep. And then just complete the questionnaire and put it on the side and forget about it. Online people, you should actually have in the form a little window that says put your unique number. So your unique number should be your month, the full thing, 05, 11, and 19, 70, 90, 60, 90, whatever it's going to be. The test is fully available, online for you to download and test for the students. So good. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm a bit confused because the Likert scale seems to be switched around from the survey instructions to
Are they?
readings.
Is that? So please ignore the top and use the ones in the scale, in the box, the SA. So SA strongly agree, SD strongly disagree. Okay. Sorry, good point. Maybe something happened there in the print. Okay, correction for everybody. Ignore the little instruction, and this is how you can mess up a whole experiment, yeah? if you're not very careful with these things. So just use the SDs, the strongly disagree, and the SAs, the strongly agree from the scale. If the people online, they can confirm that they can open, one can type if they can open the link, that will be good. Okay, that's fine, yeah. I mean, it's not the end of the world. If you don't be frustrated if you cannot do it, it's fine. It's for personal development and also to give you an idea of the instrument. Folder. Okay. Okay. So that's for people connecting with us via the live streaming. If you go to the Google Drive, to the folder, you should be able to see the link. And then you can click and should be just an open window. The very first question should be your unique identification number. That's for us to match the thing and then provide feedback. And use month and date of birth in full, 05, 1978, 77, or whatever it is, 06 or something. How many are still working on this? Everybody's done? It's straightforward. It's not. So put it on the side. You don't need to worry about it at all. The next thing we'll try to do now is in front of you, or in this row, maybe you need to walk, stand up and move, and maybe you guys, no, I'll bring you some set. So think, there you are. So what I would like to do now, and I will do it also for the online people, think how do you feel now? Yeah, so Take a minute, close your eyes, whatever you do. Just think, how do you feel now? Look at the visual card, the card that is in front of you, and pick one card that represents your feelings or your feeling. A card, sorry, yeah, the body parts will come later. We will play with them later. Take some time, think, feel, and then pick one, and be able, when we come together, to have a little narrative, why this card represents. For the online people, I have a little selection here for you. We have two cards over here for you. One is a little boy trying to push a mini car, Earth, that says hello. We have one that says, what I need is facts. We have a lovely flower. We also have a lovely town with hot air balloons and a party in a lovely garden. We also have a nice night sky. So here it is, sky again. Do you feel like hot air balloons and fanfares? Do you feel like a nice flower? Do you just feel that you need to move on in your life and you want facts? Do you want to push your barriers or whatever? Do you feel people of the planet? I'll just leave it here. Just pick the one that is better and then type in the chat. Yeah, type on the chat a few words. I believe, I feel like that, and that card represents it. Okay, just one more time. The facts, the nice landscape, the flower, the night sky. We'll give some time to the online people to type their things, but if we have already people ready to express their feelings using the card, I would love to hear someone. Please, and we'll take the microphone. And for the benefit of our people, the card is a set of pebbles in a very nice little structure. Yes?
I'm not at the office, so I'm really calm and relaxed and zen because I'm not at the office.
So you feel that the life goes in a nice little cycle.
If I was at the office, I would have chosen another one, which
All
is
right.
a guy that's working really hard. But I'm
in the context
zen.
of the question,
And
how you
I'm
feel
zen.
now?
I'm zen.
Lovely, thank you. Anyone else from this table before we move?
So I've got a picture of men sleeping on a scaffolding or
That's pretty
something in
much
the air.
Up there, a few
Yeah,
meters
so they're
up there.
sleeping. So now I'm feeling content. I know there's a lot waiting, and I know there's a lot of challenges waiting in the year coming and a lot of things happening. But at this moment,
Yes.
I'm sleeping on the ledge.
On the ledge. Knowing that
I'm
there are
content. I know
risks.
there's a lot of dangers and risks and everything everywhere, but I'm quite content with where I am now.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Anyone else, or we can move? Do you have some? Yeah?
I've got the one, the world is your oyster,
Yes.
and it's more. I'm very excited. I'm ready to go. I've been here since Tuesday, and we've got. We were in yesterday's session as well, and we've been talking about things to do and things to plan. So I'm very excited, and I'm ready to go. So
Lovely.
that's how I feel. At the
So the
moment.
world is the oyster. Great. It's an open thing. We didn't go for everybody, but if you have a good feeling or something to share and a nice card, please. And if things from the online people are coming, we can take a minute to great. Perfect. Maybe we can move a bit on the back to see if there's any appetite. Yes, we have one volunteer.
I've got a picture of a bus, very colourful bus.
Okay, double
Um,
bus, yes.
So
Double
for me,
deck one.
it's two-sided. It's the opportunity to make it pretty and colourful. There's a lot of new things on my table this year.
Yes.
So for me, it's to make it pretty, beautiful, workable, effective, efficiently. So I'm excited about that. And then the bus is just to get on the bus and just get going.
Yes,
That's where I'm at now.
which is a good. So we keep going in a good, positive, colorful way in life, which is great. Thank you. Anyone else from that table, or we can move to another one? You are okay? Okay, let's go to the last table. At least we get one per table. That would be a good thing. And at least one male participant as well, please. Yes, so we can get. I know it's about feelings, and sometimes we're a bit, but yeah, let's express them.
Okay, I have a picture of, it's like an abstract landscape.
Abstract landscape, yes.
Yes. And what I've realized in the last couple of days is that I had a specific idea about how I should be giving class, and that it's very structured, and this is just a reminder of bringing in the creativity and all the things that we learned, looking at things a bit differently than I saw them previously.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's a good message. Okay. Yes, my friend.
I have a
That's
picture.
not my favorite, by the way. It's good. That's an elephant on a bicycle,
riding.
yeah?
Yeah. Trying to find a balance. I will relate that to my academic achievement. Things are coming to place, and I'm making some huge achievement also.
So balancing, and it's
Yeah.
not impossible, yeah?
Yeah.
If the elephant can do it. Let's take one from the online, and then we'll move to take one maybe from the middle, and then one from the row here.
Okay, Yolandi Hyman says she feels like the girl pushing the car. And she says, it feels like I have so much to do and I feel so small in relation to the big car. All the things that I need to do with 2019.
Yeah, a little boy pushing a relatively small car, but still, it's not fair for that. Yes? Okay. Anyone from your table? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I've got this one with the butterfly on the landscape.
Butterfly on the landscape.
Yeah, and this is, I feel like I'm waiting a little, because a lot of things I know are supposed to be starting, and I'm kind of watching and waiting. So I like having this view, seeing what's in the distance, and then also the speech. I can see the outlines, but I'm not seeing all the detail yet. So I'm waiting for things to start going, see what's going to unfold.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's very good. And one or two from your colleagues? We can cut through the microphone. Anyone? Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I chose this card. There's a teddy bear and butterflies all over. So for me, it's more of taking a breath and waiting on the good things that are going to happen. Beautiful, and I'm just hoping for the best for the year.
Great.
So, yeah.
So beautiful things are around us. We're waiting to happen. It's just a bit of anticipation. Great. One more, and then I want one more male reflection, whoever from our remaining people here.
I just feel I have to share this. My card says it's a picture of a sea, calm sea, and then it says you only meet people doing amazing things if you step outside your everyday. And I think that's a very the right thing to say now for us, because if we didn't step out of our difficult or full programs, you wouldn't have encountered what we did.
Thank you. And one last voice. Could be two.
I've got a picture of a couple of kids waiting in line to look through a camera.
Yes.
And the first girl looking through the camera is quite excited, and I think that's where I am quite excited about the year that's ahead. And looking through the camera, sometimes you get lost in the big picture, but if you look through the lens, you focus on certain things, and I think that's what this week is about focusing on your teaching and learning and how you can improve it. So,
lovely, thank you. Anything, one more from the online, if there's another one? Yes. At least, and then I can go into the session.
Okay, so Omolola said she chose the yellow card. Now what I need is fact. And that she implies it says she's making a positive impact to young lives. So I think she's excited about making a positive impact.
An impact. So we want facts, which is good. So just a quick thing. This is a personal collection. From any place I travel, I pick cards, free cards from the library and so on, because I automatically find a message. I look at it and tells me something. And I use it in different events, not only reflection. One of the best use I put this is with freshers, like first year students. If you want to break a bit the ice in a meaningful way, you can actually put any question around that. It could be not your feeling, tell me your teaching philosophy. And people, they will say, my teaching philosophy is about being people of the planet, and I want to be open, or I want to have your word is an oyster attitude as a teacher, or not. You can just name it. You can put it in any situation. If you're going to bring teams together, we use it in the university when we bring teams that normally they won't have the appetite to talk to each other. So at least they can talk to the card first, and then we get the feelings in the room before we move on and do things. There are also professionally made cards from different companies that supposedly they also have some sort of a psychometric behind it, so it will tell something about you. I'm not putting it that way. These are all random selections that say things for me, and it's a beautiful way to do it. For the online people, what we sometimes do, if you are to do as a distance learner, instead of having a random discussion forum, welcome to the unit or the module, introduce yourselves, you might want to say, welcome, my name is Panos, I will tell you something about myself using a visual. And then you might want to have, like on Google Images, there's copyrighted images. Just send them a link to an image selection and say, when you introduce yourself, say something about using a stimuli. It will make 10 times more interesting the introduction than what you will get from the simple just introduce yourself, which is my name is Panos, I come from Greece, full stop. They will tell you something meaningful. So there are good ways. But it is the most important thing, the foundation of reflection, which is the ability to focus on something. In that case, that's why we use the instrument. And then the ability to associate it with a feeling. So that's foundational things about reflection. Because reflection is not about facts and descriptions. It's about observations and feelings. And that's one of the big rules, and that's what will make the reflective writing totally different from a piece of analysis or a piece of a description that people will make. But you will see all the different facts. And you can have your own variation. Yeah, you might want to do it with video clips. You may want to put students to watch a 1 minute something and write their reaction and so on. Okay? So thank you for that. I'll collect the cards later, and I'm already collecting cards from your country as well. So I've been to some of the museums, but the museums, they have a bit of political messages, but it's fair enough. But also beautiful landscapes, nice animals, you have a lot of them, so I can see elephants going up in the, in the thing, and that will make a good collection. Okay, so it is the idea of reflection of learning. There's not lots of theory, but actually there's a lot of theory if you really want to go into the scholarship of learning. I mean, reflection is something that's been around for many years, going back to the beginning of the century with big theories like John Dewey. Yeah, for people they are in education, this name John Dewey will be big. If you're not, you might want to have a look at the work. But in the last 50 years, we have a lot of reflections and people advocating reflective models. So, and then disciplines, they will have their own way of doing reflection. So there will be a particular way that health and science, they will apply reflection, and a particular way in which politics and sociology, they will apply reflection, or linguists, they will apply reflection. if you look at the thing, so this one is also in the publication I wrote with Marina Harvey, which is the latest one, 2018, and has the model that we propose, and you have a copy on that. But we are confident that reflection is still, in the last 6-7 years, is still one of the most influential ways for learning. So it's not just something that came in the 1960s, 1970s, and then disappeared, and people, they never talk about it. For example, there are other theories and other ways of thinking for education that they have disappeared out of the picture. Reflection is something that stays with us because it's something we are doing. However, it's not a straightforward thing. So, open from the beginning, going to the students and say, reflect on this, tells them nothing. There's not such a thing as, without knowing what reflection is, having done something, some preparation, some training on the reflective writing or the reflective speaking, that the student will say, yes, I will go. You know, in the news, when they do interviews, they ask people, oh, reflect on your day, and then people normally, they describe, and that's it. That's not reflection. Reflection is intellectually and emotional enterprise. Yeah? This is an important thing. Reflection and emotions, they come together. That's where reflection works. You can stop me at any time and ask questions. Reflection outcomes is also not evident. Asking a student, in your case there will be students primarily, yes? Asking a student to write in a personal, meaningful, emotional way about something, either a thing that they've done in their life or something that happened in the class or a result that they got or a practice that they did, they don't want to do it. And different type of people, they will object a lot. Yeah, the introverts, the people that don't want to express themselves. So it takes training. That's why reflective retreats or training sessions are important to be across. And also have different types of reflection. Like you may decide to take off the shelf one model for reflection, and that will lead to a particular type of writing. And then you read it and you say, it's not exactly what I want, I expect. And then you'll go and find a more, let's say, emotionally focused reflective model. So you will not stay with one model, say that is, I'm going to take it off the shelf, I'm going to go and play it. My feeling is if you buy into the idea, you will play over your careers with a number of things, and more likely you'll end up having your own way of asking the reflections, like what I do now. I collect number of things and I provide opportunities. Can I ask how many of you are already implementing something around reflection, an activity, an assessment, something? Would you like maybe to quickly tell us what type of activity it is? Or
I'm from the School of Pharmacy.
yes.
We send the 3rd and the 4th years on clinic and hospital visits.
Yes.
And with every visit, they have to write a reflective report. And
Yes.
that is what we then use for assessment.
Perfect. Reflective report, and I can appreciate immediately pharmacy and most of the health professions, they will have reflective reports. Teaching will have reflective reports, debriefs of some sort, but a number of other professions, they will have reflective. It's a very specific type of reflective writing, the reporting for that. And it takes time also to master the way of writing this. Okay, and we'll see an example of a reflective report. Anyone else who is doing a different thing around reflection? Maybe we can keep the microphone.
Our third year students in recreation, they have a final subject that is sort of taking everything together.
Yes.
And during this whole semester, they about once a month or maybe once every 2 weeks, they get a questionnaire that has focus questions that have them reflect on certain stuff that they've done so far. And then at the end of the semester, they also do a portfolio. And part of the things that needs to go into the portfolio is their reflection on the whole module and the experience of it.
That's one very commonly used approach to what we call the final year capstone units, we call them in Australia, where you want students to find a way to synthesize things that they took throughout, but also what did they get out of that complete experience. So it's actually a very good thing. And then you mentioned portfolios, reflective journals, journaling and keeping notes, all of these things, they can be part of reflection. So in a way it links with what we were discussing yesterday for people that were here about the reflection on the overall course, or reflection on an overall set of experiences, or on a placement, or reflection for the future, for your career, or anything like that. Okay. If I was to pick from this list seminal authors, Sean, the last one, 1983, will be the one that has developed the most comprehensive model for reflection. He mentioned three main types of reflection: in, on, and for action, pretty much dividing the reflection into different episodes. There will be reflection that you do while you are doing something. Yeah? So what we just witnessed here with this kind of cards, it was a reflection in action. Spot on, 2 minutes, it was about an event that was taking place and you're reflecting the same time. There's the reflection on action, which is in a way on a bigger scale, reflection that takes place on a particular incident or a particular event. And there is the reflection for action, which is very much what it says, reflection for improvement, for follow-up action. All of the follow-up models, and very close to Sean, I think only a year different, 1984, who have perhaps the most dominant model of reflection, Kolb's experiential cycle, only within a year different in the publication. All of these things of in, on, and for, they kind of are interwoven. But you have to be, and then from a teacher point of view, you have to be clear at what point do you expect students to reflect and towards what direction. Yeah? Now already, I'm honest here, we are starting losing the enthusiasm of the openness of the card because of the universities and the expectations to assess, to put timelines, and we have to lock it down to a model. That's unfortunately, I'm saying honestly unfortunately, because we are losing a lot of the spontaneity of the reflection by doing this, but we have to do it. Otherwise, for you to be able to assess what we've just done here, totally open, uncontrolled, unfocused reflection, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. But you may need to do that once or twice just to warm up the students. But normally when you use reflection for learning / assessment, it's good if you do have a model in your mind, set of parameters for the reflection, and you're very clear what do you want to see. Not you, but also the students. Because sometimes you might confuse creative writing and very good, colorful writing with reflection. And someone who writes really, really straight and to the point, you might kind of feel that's not reflection. But this person might actually make more points, more clear points than the colorful writing. So all of these are kind of risks that we face. This is a classification that myself and Marina Harvey came after have done a review of the literature. And I like it because to me helps me focus to adopt the type of reflection I would like my students to pilot. So after we've done all the reviews, we came with these 4 big types of reflective writing that takes place. The first is what we call technical or analytical reflection. That's the most commonly used thing in reflective writing, which is very much in the form of a report, or a form of an essay, or a form of an analysis, which still has descriptions, evidence, a number of references and things like that, but you do infuse in this kind of analytical writing some important questions. So an example of analytical writing will be reflect on policy X that the government imposed on the, let's say, financing of a particular sector, let's say schools, and by doing so, tell us what in the policy is important, why is important, to what extent can be implemented, and so on. And you give them a number of questions. And normally the students will go through a cycle of answers, and they will produce a report of 4, 5, 6 paragraphs. If it is an ongoing thing, you might have every week the reflective journal. It will be comprising of 3 or 4 questions. What is important in this class? Why is important? How can you improve yourself? And the students go in this kind of ongoing cycle. Think of it as a cycle. Now, technical analytical reflection has a particular aim. And the aim is to generalize for the wider population. The wider population in that case actually is you. Look, you ask someone to write reflectively, which is a very personal thing, but for someone who is not in that mind and that situation, to read, understand, and assess. So the way that this writing is mostly they write for you. They don't write for themselves. And that's crystal clear. You appreciate it, but you do it because it's just an improvement to a very static essay or a static report. Nothing more, nothing super wow, reflective, emotional, and so on. And you will notice that they do that because they will be using facts and statements, absolute facts and statements. Yeah? Most of the times they might quote, it will look very typical to an essay or a report from that point of view. Totally in the contrast to that is the personalistic reflections. And one of the biggest advocates of that is Professor John Cohen, who was also my second supervisor for my PhD, who taught me to write in a totally open way. My PhD was evolved on a napkin over wine in a dinner with him. That's how it went. It was like totally wild, asking why you're doing that, is it worth it? Ignore the literature. And then we were drawing on a simple napkin. And the model, we just took it and then I put in the PhD as a photograph. Totally personalistic. The idea there is the person who writes, they answer questions that matter to them, not to you. So if you opt for a personalistic reflection, what you are interested is not the answers to the questions, but the questions. So you will ask the student not what is the policy, but out of this messy, let's say, governance that exists, in Australia, in Greece, or wherever, what actually worries you? And you might be worried about the finance. The other person might worry about the way that, I don't know, families are going. The other way, the people that might worry about the well-being of people. And they will develop then their own set of focus, because someone mentioned focus, the lenses. You're not giving them the lenses. You are telling them that they have to identify what matters to them. And then they develop a number of questions. Some of them, they might go back to the technical analytical to analyze it, but at least the beginning of it is personalistic. And most of the times, there will be personal examples, relationships. Why do you feel like that? And I will give you a very quick anecdotal in a bit. And emotional rationality. You are unpacking emotions. So here's an example. 2011, I was teaching in a postgraduate certificate in learning and teaching, very similar to what we do, like training for academics. And I had in my team around 20, 22 people from different places in Europe. Part of the training involved bringing actors, real actors, well, real actors, not superstars, like actors that are making their living, that they were able to act, in front of them to play scenarios. Really, really uncomfortable scenarios that normally you will witness in a class whenever, it's the unlikely event, but it can happen. Like a student really bursting in tears and start screaming in front of you in the class, and how would you react? And we wanted to ask the immediate reaction. What would you do if a child was behaving like that in your class, and so on. And then they had to reflect on what are the messages from these 2 or 3 events. So I got a number of people telling that, I never felt so frustrated. The reflection was like, I felt my heart beating when I saw these people, and I kind of said, please, never in my career I want to witness that. They sent me all of these things, and that was very personal stories. There was one particular guy who just said, I didn't even want to reflect. That was rubbish. you waste people's money and blah, blah, blah by breeding actors and doing. And he wrote an accusation of why this event. But then he had two triggers. And I can't imagine, I couldn't believe that all my other colleagues, they were laughing and enjoying it when it was more enjoyable and applauding. And I was the only one thinking like that. So I used that trigger and I said, okay, this is your personalistic reflection. The rest is just, you know, like an observation. But what actually is here, you need to go back and check why you think that you didn't enjoy it. Like, okay, you tell me you didn't enjoy it and blah, blah, why you didn't enjoy it. And he came back with 3 pages of reflection going back to his school in Germany and how the particular events that took place actually did happen, and he just sat. He sat his way, he didn't really want to reflect. So emotion in the reflection that paralyzed him and he became defensive. So another thing I want to put here on the table is that reflection is a dangerous thing. It could lead to a paralysis point. If you are a medical doctor and you are reflecting in your mission of offering, and you are reflecting on an event where you know you have no control to change anything about what happened in the incident, you're just putting out your emotions and you don't have a way ahead to say, okay, I witnessed that, I don't know what I can do. So this personalistic reflection then means to be, okay, you know, what do you think? They need to keep coming with questions towards an action. And it's developing quite slowly, but very, very dynamically from that point of view. Make sense? The two different things. Most of us will do number 1 in a class. Number 2, you might do it in a very particular case. Or it might take, I gave you a bit of a negativity. It's not necessary to be negative, the personalistic reflection. It might be also, you know, like people that might come with very beautiful events of their life and say how life is wonderful and so on. But you need to accept both and be prepared to mentor and provide feedback to both. Third type of reflection is what dominates professions. Nursing will do critical reflection, engineering, medicine, law, I think other areas they will do critical reflection. It has a political connection. So critical reflection is linked to critical theory, and critical theory is linked to an aim which is not only to reflect for yourself and the current situation, but to reflect for the overall change of the society and the places you live. That's why it's so important in big areas. So if you do critical reflection, you use, I don't know if you're familiar with the idea of emancipation. Emancipation is statements that they will become agents of change. Yeah, politicians are using them wrongly many times, but there are statements that they will put on the table ideas for change. An example of critical reflection will be reflect on the public health system of Australia, identify the areas where critical concerns exist, and find ways around that it will improve the system for everybody or for a particular population. And students, they will go there and they will find, they will take different lenses. So in a critical reflection, it's not only the one personal lens. In analytical reflection, it's mostly your lens given to them. In these reflections, there's going to be at least 3 or 4 different lenses. Yours, the historical lenses, the lenses of the people. Normally, you will ask people, for example, if you do critical reflection in the nursing profession, your reflection, it has to be communicated to other nurses to see how they feel, or a pharmacist needs to talk to other pharmacists to see if they come to the same kind of conclusion, and together find the best acceptable solution for changing the sector, changing something big. Yeah? The most useful instrument for critical reflection is the critical incident analysis report. That they are very common, very structured, and we have an example there. Do we follow? Yeah.
In the political sphere, they campaign. I think we use the term campaign.
Okay. Yes. You would. I mean, again, going back to the idea of dangerous into quotation, if you do critical reflection well, and then students, they come back with a particular solutions that they want, most of the times they will want to put something and apply it. So it will end up perhaps in a communication campaign. It will end up the outcome to be something that they write, for example, to the professional body and make recommendations and so on. That is what makes the emancipation, societal, political well-being aspect around it. It's very important. If you don't do that, it's not critical, okay? So critical, think about it, think the context in which you apply it, and let it happen. Having said that, people that will call critical reflection a technical reflection with a bit of critical analysis. But believe me, it's not. Yeah, you can call it that if you want, but if you really want to assess, I will never give points to a student for a critical reflection unless they bother to bring at least 3 or 4 different perspectives out in their writing. Okay? And there is a very good activity, which maybe I can send you the link, Yolani, to put online, called the Park. The Park is an activity that's been developed now over 15 years. And it's a quite simple story. It's about a woman is having her routine, every day goes to work, and she's crossing the park, and things happen, yeah? And one day she crosses the park, and she witnessed an accident, and the accident of a young boy wanted help. And she doesn't pay, she looks at it, she doesn't pay attention, and she moves away. And then the following morning she wakes up and she reads the article that the person died. And she goes now from 4 different lenses to tell the story of what she could have done to help this person. From the analytical one, and then it's an activity for your student also, it's quite good, it's freely available to download. So the first one is a piece of writing that is factual and defensible. I went there, that happened, I didn't have the time, I always do that, I never observe, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm all right. The emotional went back, what if the child was my son? And how I have reacted if that situation, and why I didn't react, and very emotional and almost like a paralyzing. The other one was about, and okay, I didn't react, but other people were crossing the road. What's wrong with our society? People are dying in front of us. Is there anything we can do? So it plays in this kind of space, and it's actually a beautiful activity to introduce. But that's what critical reflection is. The creative reflection, which part of it was what we just did, is, do we always have to do writing? Is reflection always associated with writing? And the answer is not necessarily. It can be a think aloud activity. It could be a beautiful conversation, as long as you still have questions in your mind to discuss. So we do have now, it could be writing of a poem. You know, I ask students sometimes to listen to a music and just write their feelings. Or I ask them to paint their feelings using just colors, and they will be like different colors together, and they create a picture that they want to do. We ask them, we go for walks sometimes. If the environment, I just say, let's go for a walk and have a conversation. I take them out of the class. They do other things that we'll do today, very small little interventions, but the idea here is that you express almost the inexpressible. But you cannot really put it in a writing. Or if you put it in a writing, it loses its colorful. Like the enthusiasm you portray when you're telling me, I'm up for it. To put it in writing, you might find the right word, but it's not come the same as that. When our colleague talked about the focus, and you emphasize lenses, how you express these kind of things. To me, this is a model that emerges now. It's relatively new in terms of being an established methodology, research-wise, I mean. But I encourage you to do it as maybe a first thing. Students, they will buy into the idea much quicker than the other ones, because it has a bit of this kind of childlike rationality. You know, I don't really need to bring references. I don't need to think political theory and the problems of my country or other countries. But I can tell you something immediately, my first reaction. So I love it as a way, and there are ways of doing it. Any questions from online people or you so far? We're good? So it's important to keep this in mind. And I will say, pick the one model that works for you, and it might be different to different modules and different scenarios. Create your reflective activity using these things as expectations. So when you assess a student for the second one, you say, I will give you marks for how well you express your emotions. And you put this in your rubric. And the student, they know that they have to go. And okay, at the beginning it's a bit superficial, you know, they might write, I'm unhappy. But as they get into the writing, it becomes very much personalized and so on. Analytical reflection is the most common. Experiential cycle 1984. If you don't know Kolb, find about him. Thousands of applications out. Also, he has developed an instrument very similar to this grass instrument. So if you are aiming to do Kolb experiential learning, there is a little questionnaire, for example, you can give to students at the beginning of your sessions, and then apply Kolb throughout, and then do another thing at the end and see whether your reflection kind of worked. Yeah, it will show maybe some change. He defines reflection as being someone who is good in observation, someone who is good in analysis, and then how they move. So most of the students, they won't be good in observation. They don't even know what an observation, what a fact is, where to focus. But they might actually develop a good ability to analyze because they do that through their essays. And then through the different activities, they might become better observers and better reflectors. They ask better questions. It's a quite good thing. So, if we want to put questions to that, we ask always the question what. That's the type 1 in Kolb's. And the what should be, and that's another important rule in reflection, a concrete experience, not a complicated example. So if I woke up in the morning, I woke up late by 15 minutes, I arrived at work late, my boss was angry, he gave me to a disciplinary committee, and I got fired, extreme, yeah, not for 15 minutes at least. But if this is the thing that worries you and you want to reflect, you need to identify the concrete experience that matters. Is the beginning of your reflection that you woke up late, or the beginning of your reflection that you got fired? Yeah? You went to the pharmacy, and you identify, and I have an example actually from colleagues in University of Aston. We did this kind of experiences where we developed a partnership with the Birmingham Children's Hospital for training pharmacists of like patients' relations in a way. And they were witnessing a lot of these occasions. It's a different thing to say that the experience was the fact that I didn't engage. It's a very abstract experience to just reflect. I didn't think I was keeping an eye contact. To say to them, for example, that I was not prepared to keep an eye contact. The departure is a different thing. One is you put the blame if you want to you and you reflect, and the other could be something different. So they have to have a statement that's concrete. Yeah? And students, they will struggle to find a concrete example. If I ask you, for example, now to give me a concrete thing that's worthwhile reflecting. Okay, well, as we are chatting, and it's not fair just to ask on the spot, that's also not good practice. Why don't everybody think of an experience you had this week? Anything. Could be an experience in the class, in your personal life, something you watched, you read in the news, something that you believe is concrete enough, and then go through and take a few notes on a piece of paper. What was it? Why you think it is important to reflect? What does it mean to you, and what you're going to be doing now? Yeah, but at this stage I need to see about the concrete aspect. Use any piece of paper you have, doesn't matter, handout, a napkin, and go through the what, why, so what, now what. Yes. Okay. For our online colleagues, as they're fixing the other sound, what I ask you to do is think of one concrete example or event that took place this week, either from the events you had with us, or in your own life, or from the news, and go through what you see now on your screens, which is the experiential cycle, and write a couple of lines on the what is the event, why is important or why did it happen, what does it mean, and what will be the next step. A quick example would be, I woke up this morning, I had 1,784 emails unread. It caused me additional frustration because I still cannot fit my thing, but I need to work out and find a way to do it. And I think the way to do it at this stage is to click everything unread. So it will stress me and I will have a new start for tomorrow. Yeah, it's an action that potentially I thought, ideally something more than these 3 seconds. You know, I have to think alternatives, but that's what is a concrete thing. It's not like my emails are overloaded. It's I woke up and I felt frustrated again today because of the number, and I have to act now. All right? So do the same for the online. Type it maybe somewhere easy, like in a word processor or something, if you have one there, open, and just copy and paste this in the chat, because if you type in the chat, yeah, it's painful to type a whole reflection on a chat room. So copy and paste, it's easier. Take 1 more minute. It doesn't matter if you haven't completed the complete cycle, but 1 more minute, which is easier said because I don't even have a timer, so I need to I need to guess. So let me take out Max. I didn't even have a watch with me. You keep time? Okay. So when I say things like take a minute or two, make sure that we don't take 5 or 6. And when the break is due, again give me something to, because I didn't have a watch. So what time is now? Okay, so we can have another 20 minutes to do the second part, and then we can break. Okay. You keep going okay, yeah? Cognitively, you're not tired? Good. Okay, again, now, if you do that in the class as an opening up activity to teach reflection in a tutorial, more likely you'll give them a more focused questions. It might be like, think of a particular thing that happened in the class last week, or something that you want them, like think of a particular reading, like think of theory X and the quote by Professor Y that mentions that reflection is the most important thing, and go through a cycle and write down whether you believe actually this is true for you. And they will say, well, that's, I think, is true for me because of this event that takes place, and they will go through and do it. If you do what I try to do now, which is ask for volunteers to reflect, they will not do it. Yeah? So depending on the time you have, plan to warm up a bit, a little pair, two people sharing their reflections. And then open up for the occasion of the volunteer. But at least you know that someone listened to the perspectives of someone else. So let's take this and let's do that in 1 minute each, roughly. Go through the cycle and talk to the person immediately next to you. So just say quickly what was the event and what did you do. In the online people, just spend the time to read other people's posts on the chat. So that's the way to do it. So you get your conversation in the online space. So what we're doing now is we are sharing quickly, maybe you've done it already on the way up, your reflection in a group. Okay, can I please ask you to come back as a big group? And now the chances that we have a volunteer are better than previously, because at least you verified your reflection with someone else. So you might feel slightly more, again, I'm not expecting everybody will jump, but is there anyone before I volunteer someone, which is the next democratic thing? You go, thank you. We have the microphone, and just, as we listen, try now just to be a bit in the, in the teaching mentality. Try to think also as someone who's going to be reading this. Does it feel like reflection? So I'm just treating them as the teachers and you as the student.
Okay,
that's
good. I don't mind being the dumb one.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, so I'll keep it short. Over the holidays, I needed a prescription for new asthma medication.
Yes.
But I was at my parents' house, so I wasn't in Potchefstroom, so my doctor, I couldn't see my doctor.
Yes.
So I went to a strange doctor, my mother's doctor. So it's not a stranger, but I don't know him. So that's my what. So when I got there, he was friendly, and I introduced myself to him, and I assume my mother has spoken about me in the past, so he knew a little bit about me. And he was very friendly, and he did his examination, and while he was sitting writing his prescription, he stopped and he looked up and he started swearing at me about how he hates dietitians.
Okay.
And he just couldn't stop. And he had this whole big thing about us taking Tim Noakes to court, and how the extreme high protein diet is bad for, and how it's good, and how our whole profession is based on lies and blah blah blah. Okay, so he was very, very passionate, and he didn't give me an opportunity to speak back. And he was swearing. So that was my what. And so my why is that.
Can I pause for a second? There's a number of whats there.
Yes.
So talking a bit from an instruction point of view, a teaching point of view.
Yes.
If now I was reading this, I will have highlighted, I'm just putting my old-fashioned way, the incident that you didn't have access to your doctor could be one thing. You're going to go for a cycle. The fact that you were introduced to a foreign, new doctor is another potential experience. The fact that the doctor's swearing at you is another cognitive experience. So there's three what's now.
And affecting my profession.
And affecting your emotions.
My
Yes.
profession.
And insulting your profession could be any of this. So most of the students, they will go and they will write big descriptions to come to the point of the why. Because the why now will be, and let's continue, to see how you're going to take the cycle towards what event. Because to me feels that the emotional charging is around the swearing thing.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So the what, if you're going to abbreviate it, I went to a doctor that I never, I was, and he swore at me, and I felt extremely bad or something, and then you're going to go, okay, keep going.
Okay, so my why, I then stopped and obviously I spent a lot of time afterwards on thinking about this, and I think his reactions was firstly because he is not familiar with what we do as dietitians, and that we don't only make fat people thin, and no, really, I'm guilty, and I think maybe he has a predetermined bias to it as because of a bad experience with a dietitian. And also he's a doctor in a very small little town. I want to say just a GP, but then I do what he did. So he's a GP, so he doesn't have access to the newest and the latest
Like
ideas,
theories,
data, etc. So that my so what is, I was a patient.
Yes.
So I wanted to be treated like a patient. I wasn't there in my professional capacity. So, and he did it in front of my mother. So how is it going to influence their relationship in the future? Because my mother was in with me, and she was also really upset about it. She was very upset about it. And then my now what is, I can ignore him, or I can send him information. But I think the most important thing from now on is for me to keep my zen and to say, okay, well, that's his experience, and I shouldn't make it mine.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you will see how emotions came directly into play. Just in a very simple, quick thing about just think something happened in your day or in the week. And you've seen that once you took a bit of time, but that's good, because most of the students, they will do that. They will put the facts in order to describe the event. So you will expect in a reflective assignment, and now I'm talking practicalities here, because you don't want reflective assignments of 15,000 words. Yeah, they have to be concise. So the students, they have to master through your training, giving them examples, how to become more concrete as quickly as possible. Okay? In your case, it was not lengthy, it was okay in the size, but you could take different ways to the cycle. You could reflect from different perspectives.
I can tell a story much longer.
You can tell it much
well.
longer. But that's what reflection does. And to be honest, this reflection is the most controllable in terms of what you expect them to do. The personalistic reflection, if for example I didn't give you the colbs and ask you to talk about this incident, you can have written a big essay about it. You have a question or a comment?
Can you put a word restriction to it?
Yes, you can. Normally, you could put a word range that caters for a number of types of writing. I cannot tell you what this is. From the literature, if it is a weekly activity, so it is something they do every week, we just say that you have to keep it concrete to 500 words, 600 words max. So after 10 weeks, it will be the equivalent of a 5,000 word essay, and that's practicalities of university, and you will give it the equivalent weighting in the score. If it is critical incidents, that they are bigger reports from going to a hospital visit, to a pharmacy, doing something in the field, this critical report, they cannot be written without spending at least 1,000, 1,500 words. So in that case, you might have critical incidents 2 or 3 times across the semester. So from a practical point of view, yes, you should put word limits, because it's also about fairness. It's a different thing for someone to write a good reflection if they are able to write more, and eventually they will get it right. And it's a different thing to be able to write a good reflection in a concise way, which is a skill on its own. But don't expect that students, they will go from day one and produce concise things. But put a limit. On average, for one assignment, I will expect no more than, personally, around 3,000 words collectively. Another thing, of course, is whether you ask them to do it in a Word document or something like that, or they're using it in a blog. The instrument you will use also will diminish. If you ask them to do it in a blog entry, normally they will keep it short themselves, because it is they want to see like little posts and announcements that they make. If you ask them to keep a diary, handwriting, they will go and they will write and they will put things, and it becomes even more big. But if you have to assess it and you have to get a mark, you have to put a limit. Yeah. The first time, maybe don't in the trial. Just see what is the environment in the class. Like, how long do they normally write? You might get extreme writers. You might get 7,000 words. And I mean, in something like that, you would expect to see around, to put this story in writing, there will be something like 500, 600 words. If someone comes with 1,000 words of that, then you know that you play with extreme people in terms of writing, and then you have to make a decision. Okay? But yes, I strongly advise that you put a limit on on that. Now, reflect using your template. So you have always this template that says reflect the debrief. Put also in the template your unique identification number, which is the one that you put on the grass instrument. Just put it on the top. And then think of what you just did, this little activity, and reflect. That's actually what we call meta-reflection, metacognition. Reflect on your reflection and say, what did you learn by doing this activity? How well did you think that you did this activity? Why you would consider using it or not? And how well it would work in your own context. So if experiential learning in that format of a simple Kolb cycle is to be introduced by you to your students, just write a few notes in your debrief. Yeah, so we are now in the analytical, the quick and structured reflection. The reason I'm asking you to put your names and your unique identification is if you want me to collect all of these things and do the analysis, I will do it when I go back. If you want to keep them and then do a little analysis yourself of the instrument, your reflections today and what will happen later, gives you an idea for a research project that you can do with your students. So I'm going to explain to you how you can run something like that in an easy way. Okay, our online people, you should have access to your folder. In the folder for this final week, the debrief template comprises 3 pages. Page 1 is analytical reflection. You can do the same question, type it in, keep it yourselves. If you want me to measure it, put your thing and send it to me. I'll tell you how, or you keep it for yourself and you do your self-analysis. So it's only page 1, yeah? We're going to do that also for the second type of reflection, so you will see how it fits with your needs in a way, what you want to do. So it's only page 1. And it doesn't matter if you write one line or one paragraph. It's you, it's personal. It's your observations of that. Okay? Don't worry if you haven't finished it, but it gives you a bit of the idea. Now it's tea time, but before, let's do the reflective tea time. So if I can all ask you to close your eyes. Online people also close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. I might close my eyes too, but I need to keep an eye on you, so I cannot close my eyes. It's for that. So you close your eyes. And I want you to imagine your favorite teacup or coffee cup. Okay? Now I want you to take your hands and take it out from where it is located and position it on the table. Great. I want you to take a teaspoon, which is also located nearby. And I want you to hold now with one hand your teaspoon, with the other hand your cup, and position the teaspoon on the top of the cup in a nice kind of line. Do it. Okay. Now open your eyes, and can you describe your cup to me?
It's a blue cup, but it's got different shades of blue.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
And it's big or
yeah, it's
small?
a big cup.
It's a
Sorry,
big
it's a big cup, and it's more round. It's got one shape. It doesn't have any.
Okay, so it's a stand tone. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? You want to describe your favorite, your cup? Yolani.
My cup is it's a white cup. It also has it's not a round. It's almost oval, and not oval. Shut up. I don't know how to explain that in English, but I think why I love it so much is the writing on it. It says joy, love, and hope.
Joy, love, and hope. Great. One more beautiful cup you want to describe? Thank you. You go over.
That's not one. My cup is also blue. It's baby blue.
Yes.
It's white on the inside. It's broken now, but it's got the letters coffee written all over it.
Okay, great. Well, none of you actually are holding a real cup or a teaspoon, but you all kind of left the room for 2 seconds, 5 seconds. Yep. Some of you might actually think, what are we doing now? But most of you actually left the room. Now this goes back to the reflective, creative reflection. If you believe in cognitive load theory, which is, we didn't face this today, I don't think we face it, but in a traditional event, students, they might be overwhelmed with information, slides, so on. Taking 60 seconds to break and rewind the brain with a little reflective activity like this, and it doesn't need to be the tick up. It could be actually something about the thing. You might actually sit close to them and imagine your students writing reflection. What do they do? And then give them 1 minute just to imagine it. And they're going to up and say, oh, they are desperately writing things. They are just talking. They don't attend. And it will describe a situation. So you can be very serious about this one. We call it the 1 minute uninterrupted time. You just rewind a bit the brain. They get out of this kind of information. Closing their eyes relaxes a bit the people, and you can do you can name it, this kind of question. So it's 1 minute of something. The important thing is the room is quiet and you don't have your eyes open, so you don't observe what other people are doing. It's actually one of these creative reflections. There's a lot of mini reflections that they don't take half an hour to do in a writing thing. They only take 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And they are equally powerful to convey a message to them. So after this this is reflective coffee and tea, let's break for 15 minutes and get the real coffee and tea in the cups that they are not as descriptive to you. And online people, please get your own coffee and tea where you are, and we'll see you. Okay, college will continue, aiming to finish the main things before 12 and then have some more time for discussion, although we've been discussing as we go. Welcome back to online people as well. Hopefully you are back. Now, connecting the dots, we discussed about the 4 types of reflection, or at least the 4 major categories of reflection, and we are relatively clear at this stage what is the purpose of each of them. You tried out the analytical reflection in its more simple form, which I advise to be, if you start reflection, start with that. It's easy, like start either with a creative part or with a quick Kolb cycle on an incident, an event, or something. That's quite good. Most of the professions, though, or most of the times that you'll need to assign a relatively big task as a reflective task. I heard people talking about portfolios, talking about big summaries of events, debriefs on things that happen in the workplace, and so on. It won't be substantial to have only one type of reflection. So the more you progress with your students from year 1 or from session 1 to session 2, you're going to introduce them to the different types. I take out the personalistic reflection because I think the principles are clear and it's down to you to find. I cannot really give you a model for personalistic reflection. It's all around you telling the students. It's almost like if I was to do an activity now with you, but takes time and I cannot afford the time, it's not part of my plan, is to ask you to think what is worth reflecting on. And then write down the questions you want to reflect on. And that takes at least 10, 15, 20 minutes of preparation for the students, like to identify themselves. The next best, though, you can do is to go with a critical reflection, which has an element of like personal perspectives, putting them there. But as we discussed, it has a bigger picture. It needs to go out. So just a reminder, the main theorist, there are 2 theories that I will advocate. One is more politically, and by political I mean critical theory oriented than the other. Jacques Marizow, 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 from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, you'll see different types of, he will be one of the main people. He has a good quote, actually, in one of his books. He says, reflection is, when you have the steam cooker, if you use a steam cooker, you throw ingredients, you throw water, and you put good heat on it, and the thing boils, but there is the valve that controls. So this thing will not explode. It won't go boom. So reflection is this little valve that allows you to put all the hot things that bothers you, the society, everybody there, but through a system, and that you will call this the template or the form, we allow a bit of a control so we don't end up any time when you have a reflection to have a fight or have a revolution, which could easily happen in some cases. Going back to reflection is dangerous. If I ask you to reflect critically of being a student, and you start thinking about the current situation in higher education, the fees that you pay, and blah, 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 you might want to just go and say, I don't want to do this anymore. This is not necessarily the purpose of critical reflection, although some theories they will say maybe should be the theory of reflection, but I'm not going to make any cases there. Brookfield is more of an educational aspect. So his theory is from 1995. So if you go, there is a website, stephenbrookfield.com, from the United States. He has ready-made resources for you to train your students, ready-made PowerPoints from which I borrow a couple of slides as well, which you can use, ready-made templates of critical things, one of which is the one I'm giving you, the one that you have in front of you. And I consider him to be a easy to follow and easy to communicate theory, his theory of critical reflection, and it can be used across many disciplines. So keep the name Stephen Brookfield and follow it. I don't have any of his publications there, but there's a lot of them out. His view is that you need to have at least 4 possible lenses, going back to the colleague of us who talked about the camera and the lenses, in our reflection. The most important, or not the most important, one of the first ones that they come always into the play is our autobiography as professional or as learner. So that will be our own perspective about the event or the incident that we want to do. So myself, as a professional or as a learner in our case, I witness an incident and I bring my own perspective. And to some extent, I do a little reflective cycle of Kolb, how I see the things. Then you need to bring into quotation the customers is the relevant stakeholder in the incident. So if it is a learning and teaching event, your autobiography is you as the teacher, and your immediate person will be the learners. Or it will be, if the incident is about you and a service, it will be the people in the service department, whoever is affected by the incident. Then you have your colleagues' experiences, which normally it will require you that you will have at least a little opening up of your perspective of the reflection. So it's not only good enough to go and witness a critical incident. Normally in the health, we will play a video when we do this activity. The video is a typical scenario where a doctor, an arrogant doctor comes into the ward to do the examination of 4 ladies. The nurse and the para-professional person are running with papers behind him, and he ignores totally that they exist as part of the team, that he is an interprofessional team. He will be very polite to some patients, non-polite in other patients, and so on. And then you are reflecting from the point of view of the nurse or the dietitian or the physiotherapist that you follow, what is the incident. So you have to make sense around what is your autobiography, what is your role in the incident, who is actually your person you are reflecting for. Is it the patient, the other people in your team? You have to define it. And then you'll normally see, well, I felt like that. I can imagine my colleague from the other team would felt like that, and you bring this perspective. And then you also bring as much theoretical literature, and that's important from the point of view of higher education, if it is assigned to literature, to see whether this particular event you witness is typical, if there is a theory that you can improve it, if you put it in application, and so on. So he talks about the theoretical biographies, the historical context, the political context, and the policy context in this kind of case. So what I want you to do now is that, do you have any questions about that? Okay. I think they are relatively straightforward things. The big thing there is always to identify in the incident the difference between the person affected in the incident, the customer, into quotation, and the colleagues. And sometimes this could be interchangeable, because it could be that your colleague has, in that case, the colleague in the experience will be the patient. You can ask, oh, did you also witness this arrogancy that took place, or whatever it's going to be. So when they reflect, you have to give them to name these particular categories. Who are your stakeholders, and so on. Now, a typical critical incident template is like the one you got on an additional handout. It's also in the online space, all of you. You have a full booklet, which is not printed for you because it's relatively length. It's called Reflection for Learning Resources, and has 6 different templates that you can use for reflection. All free for you to copy, adapt, and use. So you can download this booklet from your Google. So the online people, you can actually find this template. So a critical incident template will have the different type of perspectives trying to be part. So what I want you to do now is to think again as a learner, given that you're in a learning situation. And let's make it focus and think not any event that took place, but what happens so far between the beginning of today and now. So think of something that took place between the beginning of this session and this point, and go through and reply as concisely as you can to the questions that they exist. Okay? So it could be anything. Could be something that I said, a theory, something that the college said, but it should be a significant event for you from today. A significant moment or something that's worthwhile reflecting. Positive or negative. So that's the critical incident template. Critical incident, not the application, the critical incident. There's one. Sorry, yes. There's one. You have one? Do you? Yeah. So the question in a way it is, at what moment in this class, not this week, because some of you might came to many events, let's focus it in this class today, what we're doing today, did you feel most engaged? And then follow this within this class, in this event, today. They should have access to the reflection resources, which is, it's in the folder, but outside the folder for today. It's in the generic thing, where all the resources are. This is called critical incident template. Okay, I'll just mention, where are the guys there? Online, okay. So the resource is not in the folder of today's sessions, but in the generic. So when you get to the Google Drive, you get all the different sessions in folders, and there's a standalone PDF that applies to all of them, and that's this reflection for learning resources. You download it, and there is a critical incident template, which you can use. All of them, you can use them. take 1 more minute. Doesn't matter to what extent you have answered. It's not, I'm not going to assess you. It's not 50% of your CPD allocation. Okay, so this is just one example of a critical incident. In order to bring all the different lenses, so the questions still look very personal, yes? It's at what point did you feel most engaged? Did you feel most disengaged? So theoretically, there will be the autobiography, your own self-report, over there. However, when questions of the type, what action took in the class find you most puzzling or confusing, talks about the other people in the class that they make up the incident, it's the critical, so the Kolb, it will say you don't need to bother to ask whether the way you felt it was a general feeling. It is good enough that you felt puzzled and that is an incident for you. But if you follow critical theory in this question, you will want to have people to answer it also from the perspectives of the others. So there will be like when a colleague of mine, and if it is an incident, you might actually mention the role. When the person X did that, I saw all the other people being confused, and I realized that that has an impact on the outcome of the thing. And this is not only me. I also discussed this with a number of people, and they felt you verify your claim. And then you bring the theoretical, and I know that this is a common problem because this and this and this and this happening. So you can either phrase these questions directly into here. Actually, you can ask them to say, take into account different perspectives, then starts getting a bit bigger as a questionnaire. But the idea here is that you start with the autobiography, your own personal story, and you expect, and you have this in your assessment criteria, that when you answer these questions, you verify your assumptions, because is assumption at this stage, from different lenses, possibly from all of them. But it might not be possible always to have them. But you'll have at least the theory and the patient, or the theory and the customer, or whatever is the case. So that's the difference between the two templates. And critical incidents, they exist as a standard process in a number of professions. Aviation is where the whole idea of critical incident happen. Anytime there's an incident, and there's thousands of incidents every day in aviation, as it is in health, as it is in schools, everything, they are reported somewhere. And there's an incident catalog. Most of the times, it's just the incident name and the incident event, and then they go through investigators to do their job. So think of your people being able to do this diagnosis themselves to find out what are the events and how you can improve it. Okay? So take now a few minutes and use the debrief template, the second of the debrief thing, which is the same questions. What is the value of this type of reflection for you? So if you follow the reflection debrief template, the second page is exactly identical to that, but this time you are reflecting from the point of view of this theory and this template you just used, the critical incidents, how useful they are and if they can put in action. So what we do now is reflection in action. Yeah? I don't give you time to go out and think. I want your immediate reaction on the critical incident template. Is it something useful? You learn something from it? Can you use it? How well can be put in practice? Again, quite quick statements at this stage. So online people, we go now out of this resource. You go back to the debrief templates. There's 3 of those. We are now doing the second in relation to the critical incidents or the theory of critical reflection. Okay, take 1 more minute. Okay, well, when it comes to creative reflection, which is, as we mentioned, we'll go back a bit to the slide, aims to express in a different way things, the feelings, the emotions, we can do a lot of things. We've done a few as we go, so using visual photography, asking them, I mean, you may want to ask people to bring something that means to them. Could be an item, a photograph, a memory, and use this as a starting point for a reflection, especially if it is in relation to a particular topic you want to bring. I always ask my students to bring their favorite book. Yeah, not bring it, have in their mind their favorite book, whatever it is. Just as a bit of a check to see what is the value of books, why we read them, do they read? Nowadays you might be surprised they might not have a favorite book, but they might have a favorite video game. You know, there's all these kind of things. But you can be very creative to start playing with that. There are also tools that they are developed to help you creative reflection. One of my favorite one is the body parts. Yeah, this one is a tool set. It comes at a cost of roughly 25 Australian, that would be 250 your currency. But having also my good colleagues in the 3D printing team, they also told me, oh, this is just, I can produce this for you if you want. It doesn't even cost as much. They want ideas. So this is just, we call it the body parts, and each of them, they have a particular meaning. So you can start a very difficult conversation with someone by throwing an ear, and you just ask your colleague something that you heard today from today's session that is worthwhile remembering. In the same time, let's throw a virtual ear to our people. So grab it and write something that you heard today that's worth remembering.
I've actually learned a lot today. I heard a lot today, but I think it was just the opening statement that thinking of reflection, it should be about observation or an incident, and then a feeling towards that. So I've always just, thought of reflection as a big, broad,
yes,
not a specific incident. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big thing that I learned today, was be more specific in terms of what are you reflecting on.
Thank you. You can throw the ear for someone else to catch it. It's down to you now.
I'll be like this.
You can do like this, but please someone grab it. There's an ear there, please. Who is going to touch the ear? And then you can keep it. All right, thank you, Michael.
So the thing that I heard today is during the postcard exercise.
Yes.
I heard that a lot of people have the same experiences or feelings at this stage of the year, and it makes you feel that you're not on your own. There are a lot of people feeling the same as you do.
Yes, which is common, but unless we verify it, you don't believe it. Like, yeah, it is. Thank you. Now we can introduce a new organ. Black eye, not a blue eye. I will expect someone on the third table there to grab it. I don't know which direction you're going to go. I'm going to see if I can do that over there. So that's okay. It's the intention to grab it. It's important that they are squeaky. They're not full plastic. Yeah. They are not things that you can hit someone. Health and safety. So this is the eye, and you can imagine what the question will be. Something that you saw, and that's the important thing. So we want something that you've seen that is worthwhile remembering. So you have to be accurate now to the event you're going to describe. It's something that you've seen with your eyes.
You know, the interpretation of the cards.
Yes.
From individuals was very good. It was beyond, and I think that is that. If you say what I have seen,
yes.
I mean I have heard most of the time.
Yes.
I haven't seen.
So
but what I have seen from colleagues, when they looked at the cards to
yes.
come up with something to say about the cards.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, it's good.
Yes.
Visual, let's actually connect with that.
Visual.
Which is very good. Thank you. Here's a brain. A brain. It's flying. We'll fool it out. You grab it? All right. Okay. So that will come now to the brain. So something that made you think a lot. You made your brain something, anything. That could be anything that you read, you heard, but made you think. Guys online, you're doing the same thing, yes?
I'm thinking now.
So the actual brain made you think.
But I think, again, it's also about the cards. Just listening to everybody, because I was sitting here with my own unique experience thinking, oh yeah, it's so overwhelming because there's so many things that I need to get done by the end of this year. But then when you hear these people, they're so positive about everything. I'm just thinking, yeah, maybe I should start looking at this in a positive way. So that really got me thinking.
It's a very good thing. And here it is, I was told, accurately anatomically heart. And I was told actually from my people in the school, the medical school, that actually is they did a good job with this. Shall we go, where shall we go? Go this way, somewhere. All right, here we go. You can pass it if you want, if you had already spared. Great. What was the strongest emotion you had today?
Well, I think excitement, but not that really is an emotion. But still, I think I was I'm excited to.
So did you felt your heart beating a bit faster?
Because I want to do this and having tools that actually gonna help me. Because it's not just theory about do this and how, but to see there's actual tools available that I can use that's gonna help me. That made me excited.
Perfect. The feelings are good. So throw the heart again one more time to someone. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I felt excited. What's the question again?
What the strongest feeling, emotion you had today?
Yes, okay, so I'm on the right track. I felt excited to have new ideas to implement in our Carpe Diems or whatever we're going to use this year, to just have new ideas and new inspiration.
Okay, thank you. There's also a hand. I'm not going to throw it because of the time. The hand is something that you've touched. It becomes more interesting. Yes, you touched the knee, yeah, people will say. But some people, they will say the fact actually that I had a tool, I touched the tool that works, or a book, or even a handshake I had with my colleague in one of the activities. So you can be with that if you have more hands-on activities, it's actually quite good. And then you can play. These are just emoticons, so you can have a little something that makes you smile. You may want to introduce a bit of frustration. You may want to put a frustrated face, and so you want to say something? Can we pass the mic? There's a few there.
Somebody from online. She said the use of Kolb's cycle. No, oh goodness, wait. Yeah, the use of Kolb's cycle to analyze and reflect on everyday situations.
Yes.
I need to practice reflecting more.
Thank you. Comment or question or whatever? Yes, just wait from our colleague.
Could hand be used for application?
Yeah.
To represent what did you learn how to apply? What did you apply?
So if you do, that's a good thing. If you we send students to do their placement sometimes. And you might use, if you want to play between emotions and applications, you might decide to use only those two things. And just say, well, tell me the most applicable, the most hands-on thing you've done where you were, and then tell me how you felt about it. We can mix and match. There's also another organ, I think. There's a stomach, which, where is it? I think there is a stomach. Is it the stomach? You tell me, guys. Yes. But I don't, for some reason, I'm not really keen on throwing spleens. I can imagine the stomach actually, a lot of the times, would generate negative feelings. Something that frustrates you, something that upsets you, that will link to the stomach. It's not a bad thing to have, but I decided not to throw it today. And I don't like it as a thing, the way it looks. So. Could be digestion, that's a good point, yes. All right. Well, get the stomach.
Yeah, I think for me, it's coming from the education, perspective. It's all about how do I apply all this now into, the way we help our students, our teachers to reflect on their work. So that's what's making me nervous now. I thought the knowledge I had was enough, but now I need to, it's the application now.
Application of that.
Yeah, that's really giving me
Get
knots.
to the stomach like a punch in the stomach. Thank you. So yeah, it comes in these little things. It's quite good, and I normally carry it in difficult meetings as well. So my colleagues like it when because sometimes you go to meetings that are lengthy and there's no meaningful discussion. You throw a stomach to someone. And it becomes really, fire thing. There are other things like that. So, creative reflection, you can be as creative as you want. Music generates emotions, and is a very good thing. Having music playing on the background, not in a loud way, while students are doing activities, also generate emotions, and depending on the associations that they've done. Using colors, not just black pen and paper, but actually allowing students to draw things. I have some of my colleagues that they will just ask them, as I said, like draw a concept map. And the concept map could be a very colorful thing by using colors. All of these, they stimulate the brain in a positive way and generates more appetite, if you want, for discussion and ability. So the last thing I want to do is go to the last page now of the debrief templates, and the last third is about this idea of creative mechanism, either the cards, the body parts, the tip thing, and go through the same discussion. Is it worth it? Can it be used? Do you have a way that you can use it? It could be, you have to be creative in the online set. You can still have music. You can still have good applications for drawing, like Padlets, like little things that you can draw things. You can still use freely available from Pinterest, or Google sites. You can use pictures that are copyrighted. That's the important thing. So over these ones, I use them because they are freely available to the public. I can use them. I have no hesitation. But if it was the work of an artist, and I play it, you have to be a bit sensitive in these kind of things. I might go and look for the organs. I think there's only the company called Training Wheels. And it's about, so it is trainingwheels.com, the website. And the thing called Body Part Debrief. I'll remove the eye, he's looking at you. And you can get and the brain. Thank you. So they will travel safely back to the country. I can imagine all in the scanner when you go through the university. Yes. If you have done this, the last writing thing I want you to do, and then we just open it up for bigger discussions around the assessment, which is important. There should be a second questionnaire identical to the first, if I'm right somewhere. Do we have the copies of the GRASS survey again? Yeah, this one. Yeah. So you complete exactly the same thing again, and the online people, you go back to the link, you click the survey. In this time, you use exactly the same identical number that you used in the first, but you put at the end the number 2, which is actually the after. So your date of birth, and then the very first digit will be 2. The last one. Yeah. So if mine is 059079 2. Yep. So I will be able then to see whether there was some shift in that, and I will report it and triangulate it with your debriefs, which is an important part. Or you can do it yourselves. So that will be a template. Yes, sorry. That will be the thing. Yeah. So just again, the instructions for both online and face-to-face. You'll get the identical survey, the GRASS, freely available, usually with your students. This time, when it says unique identification number for the online, you put exactly what you put in the last, followed by the digit 2. In your one, you put, again, your first one, like your date of birth, and the number 2, that's the second time you're doing it. Yes. Yeah, we'll do some. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, colleagues? Now, what exactly you did today, the whole thing, we've done it with Australian colleagues and Chinese colleagues. We analyzed all of these things that they've done, and all of this is written in this publication we have a copy of, which the whole thing is a training purpose, but also there is a research purpose, which works well also for your students. The reason I didn't tell you it's for research purpose at the beginning is because we found out that influences the way that they reply to the questions. So my attitude as a researcher is I use them as instruments for learning, and then I ask people that if they want to be considered in an anonymized research, then they will give me, you will give me your packs and I can analyze them. Or you simply keep your packs and we have no things. But if you decide to do this type of analysis, which is, so the way that the work works for us is, we gave you the GRASS questionnaire that has particular metrics, yeah? So all of you, anonymizedly, you'll get a profile as to the scale of ability to self-regulate through reflection. Then you went through a training process that potentially boosts a bit your confidence in the process of self-regulation and reflection. You retake this. Within a day, and that was the title of the article, we found a very small but significant change, significant for the type of events. If you keep doing that over a period of a semester with your students, and you try this survey 3 or 4 times, and you do reflection well, this scale should become more to the strongly agree. It should become more to the positive. And so it gives you also reassurance that what you do works well in terms of reflective practice. If you are interested in the scholarship of learning and teaching and reflection in your discipline, you can also actually get something out of it for your sector. So there are publications in the Medical Educator, there are publications in all the professional journals that they're actually using the GRASS questionnaire. So from my point of view, if you decide to give me these things, I will do an analysis, and then I will send a report back to you, Lani. It will be fully anonymized. You want to be based on your, I won't reveal the dates of birth to anyone. I don't even know who you will be. But I will give a profile for the whole of the cohort, and I can give it back to you. And then I might, if you're interested in taking this forward with students, I will be more than happy to participate in a joint event. Because we want to collect more and more evidence that all of these things that they take time to develop, and the instruments and the resources, actually they do make a difference, not for the assessment. Yeah, for the assessments they will write, but to the overall student ability to think creatively, to think critically, to think reflectively. Okay? So if you decide to give me this back, you just leave me. So what I will need from you is the 2 questionnaires and the deep brief templates. Just with your unique identification, I can put them all. One goes to SPSS, the other goes to a tool called Qualitative NVivo for analysis of the comments. That's all. But read this publication to see if this research idea works for you and how you can improve it from that point of view. Final point, but very important, all of these are good, but when it comes to implementing them, and my colleague there mentioned implementation, templates are important. So the ones that I gave you, they're all available for you to use and reuse. If you download from your folder the reflection for learning resources, they will also have other templates. So for example, there are 3 different critical incident templates. One closer to an event. So some of them are more appropriate for hands-on practical activities that they take place in an incident in the workplace, in a hospital, in an engineering department, whatever. Some of them are critical incidents that they are more societal, more theoretical writing, but you'll have 3 different approaches to critical incidents. There is other reflective things. We have the 5 main points templates, 5 main points. You can download the whole thing. Yeah, guys, so that's the one, you can find it. The question is, again, reflecting on, and then you define this, on the incident, reflecting on the application, reflecting on the theory, reflecting on the reading, reflecting on the video. list the 5 more important things addressed to you today and the reason why. So if I ask you to do that, you'll say maybe the theories were important to me, seeing the documents is important to me, but some of you might say the research is also important to me, others you might say no, it's not important to me. But it's almost helping students do action planning. Because once you have identified the 5 important things taking next, this can become the points for reflection. So go through now these 4 or 5 points and identify action plans. There's another one, which I love, which is called the minute paper, and it is actually the minute paper. Literally, you'll give them 60 seconds. And you just say, write down the 1 most significant thing. You filter it even to the most important thing for you in the relation to this incident or this event, and the most important question that you still have. I use this with PhD students. We never, ever, ever start a PhD consultation unless you have the 1 minute from them. I don't want them to come and say, oh, I'm frustrated. I said, tell me what is the most important thing in your PhD life now? My literature review. What question do you have? I have no idea where to go. So it becomes a focus for discussion. Then, after that, I will throw them a template and say, after a consultation, I want you to send me the 5 main points of our discussion. And I keep this in my archive. So when I do my report every 6 months, I say, these are all the actions we agreed. They're not taking points. You need to go and prepare new actions. You can do it with your students and so on. And there is the seeking clarity template. It is all about confusion. Yeah? What is the 2 main points, 3 main points justifying it, that you still need clarification, and write down what support or what advice you may want to seek for that. And then you have a whole section on creative. Drawing with 2 hands is a lovely activity, asking people to use both hands and design something, just to get, it's getting very interesting how people, they try to coordinate and they can try to put even like make a complete thing with 2 hands, that they have to connect with each other. These are all going more in the idea of how the brain operates. So we have the drawing with 2 hands and the free flow drawing, and we have the food for thought. Do you have, in Australia we have the Chinese fortune cookies. Do you get them there? They all have messages there. They're all positive messages. Sometimes we just bring these cookies, we just throw them, they open it, they read the message, and they have to relate it. That goes again in it's similar to this, emotions. And most of them are written, we know it's safe because they are written in a way that they are kind of futuristic, like something good will happen in your life. Oh, reflect on what could be good. Oh, actually I'm getting married. Okay, is that a good thing? I don't know. You know, they go, they go into the reflection and the emotions. Little things like that. So we call this the food for thought that you can do. Imagining a teacup, which we've done together, which shows them the powerful brain and how it works. Noticing 5 things, and very, very, very good thing if you're going to break the big class. If I ask you, for example, here to notice 5 things that are important to you, what 5 things that will be, which we have full. But that is the observation, practice observation. Some people, they notice the sound of the thing, how distracting it is. Some of them, they notice their stomachs rumbling because of they're hungry. They come with everything. I'm not saying that these are complete reflections. I'm saying that all of them, they practice a particular aspect on observing or thinking or learning how to express an emotion. So by putting a number of these relatively fun, easy, straightforward activities in a class, they only take 3, 4 to 5 minutes of your time, but altogether, then you can say, we've done all of this, now go and do the kolb. But keep in mind that I want you to think what you did in the 5 things. This is what I call observation. Be precise. I'm not observing this, I'm observing the sound it makes, and I'm going to reflect about it and how concise it may be. Okay? So one is, we have resources, a lot. Now, this is only an example. The second is, you need to have criteria. Yeah? So you need theory, with the resources, and you need criteria, because you will be assessing this, and you will be giving marks, or you might be giving pass, fails, or whatever you do. The criteria, this is you have a copy of this paper, but it is in a different folder. It is on the folder about portfolios, because there were criteria for portfolios. And they are, I personally like a model where you asked about self-scrutiny, like ability to analyze. Are you going? Thank you. Cheers. Thank you, guys. And then I like the idea of connections. So always when I talk to students about reflection, I said it's about making connections of events, feelings, things, observations. So I use a lot the idea of connection to experiences, connection to resources, if you're doing it for the students, connections to interactions, class, learning outcomes, and so on. So I will say to a student that, let's say if it is a year 3 unit or module that brings everything together, I will use my program learning outcomes as the driving thing for my reflection, which is by the end of this course, and you are about to finish this course, the degree, you should have developed an ethical behavior towards this. Now bring connecting dots from across the degree experiences that you have, and that will be a relatively large reflection, might be like a 4,000 or 5,000 pieces of writing that they put together. Bring the evidence and connections you have from across the degree. That could be readings that you learned well, classes you attended, hands-on applications you've done, interactions that they took part in the class, and following these criteria, bring them up. So a complete portfolio or reflected portfolio will be something like, I was supposed to be ready to be an advocate for ethical behavior, and these are the 5 most important, and that goes to the observation by going back, the 5 most important incidents in my degree. I will start with a very introductory lecture by Professor X, who was invited, and you have to be precise. If they go about telling us the history of the slides that this person played, this is not reflection. You'll just say you are just being out of topic. But if they say that the quote from Professor X, who mentioned how important ethical is for the well-being of other people or for justice, made me think about this and this and this and this. And then they link it to their theory. And then they link it to how they practice it at home. And they link it to how they read a video or something in the news. And they can bring all these things of connection, but all of it will be, again, a cycle. And you can give them points for the observations. They have good concrete observations. They have enough analysis and personal emotions there that you can make the connections, but also enough theories to validate them, evidence from the theories and so on. At a very simple thing, that will be just assess Kolb's cycle in one course or in one particular module. You may want just to ask them to make the connections more to the level of the class. When I introduce that, they also know in advance, because they have the criteria, that they have to pay attention to the interactions that they take place in the class. A lot of them, they will turn up to the class, because unless they are there to observe them, they cannot really reflect, and they will lose 20 marks. It's an indirect way to assess participation. I will never assess participation. I will assess what actually they took out of the participation. And if you don't participate, automatically take nothing, so you get 0 points. Okay? So if I ask someone that I need 3, if you believe that 3 or 4 participations are enough, I want 3 examples of interactions. That could be a discussion and answer session, or a discussion you had with a colleague. What did it happen, and so on. Normally, if that is accurate, you know it because it's also your memory. Yeah, it took place in the class. So I put this connection to class discussions, courses, and active experimentation. The one thing that we put in the assessment criteria that distinguishes the distinction, if I tell it like that, and the failing, is how defensive they are. Yeah? And I give them examples. If I am to reflect on the failing assessment of Module 1, So I tell them, reflect on where you are with your academic studies now, which is very good activity, by the way, to do after the exams are released. Reflect on your marks and your feedback as a quick thing. They might start putting all the emotions, and you will see them, and then they will revert to a defensive thing. And they're going to say, however, it's everyone else's fault, but it's not mine. And you'll read this carefully. And at that point, you're going to say, this is extremely defensive. I want you to think, what is your role in the incident? I know that, conspiracy of the universe and the times and whatever, and the grandmother had problems, all these beautiful things that we read, all the family dies when the exam happens. It's fine. But I want you to talk about your role and responsibility in that incident. And this is how you can correct them and say, I'm sorry, but I'm not giving you feedback just for a very vague, totally defensive, non-accurate reflection. And you can, some people, they will also say, I want specific, I want 3 events, I want 5 events, I want 6 reflections, 10 reflections. Multiply by 500 words, 600 words, the more you add, the bigger the thing will be, and the more time you'll spend in doing it. So I compromise. Sometimes is I want 10 application cards. So I want you to give me templates, collections of templates, 10 application cards and 2 critical incidents, and an overall reflection of where you are with your studies now. Which, in a way, this will make it much more robust and clear to them. Or take 10 application cards and submit them, and identify from them the 2 most important ones that is worthwhile reflecting. When I do reflections on readings, I will say, you had 5 key readings to read, and 15 optional readings. I want you to reflect on 5 messages from the key readings and 5 from the others. I don't care if they're going to go out and Google summaries and reviews of people's views. That's also something that they do something. They go out and they look at it. But most of the times they will use your notes, your slides, and they will go about and do it. So you can reflect at any level, at the micro level of what happened just in the class with 3 seconds, 5 seconds incidents that you witness, all the way to the whole of the degree or the incident. But whatever you put, make it there very clear in the rubrics. Questions? So all of them are, for us, we're using them as accessible things. All of these are activities that we give out to our students in the way exactly that you've done them.
Previously, you also said that, for instance, with the TBL, that it's not for everyone and everything.
Yes.
Because we can easily put a reflection into every module
Yes.
and everything we do.
Yes.
What would you advise? Is it the same? Is it?
I would say reflection is, I personally think it's good to have it across everything, but not the big thing. I would dare to say that you can use one of these in everything, a variation of this, as a startup. But if you're going to end up requiring 3,000 and 4,000 and 5,000 words of reflective writing, I will do it in units and modules where you believe that they need the additional support. There's a lot of complexity for them, or they are the most important. In our university, we have essential units that they provide the big foundational knowledge, and the elective units. I will definitely put a reflective item in the essentials as a startup. And then the more familiar you become, the more you can play for it. But as I said, the body parts could be a 10 minutes reflection in one aspect. If you link it back to yesterday's, for those of you who are not here, yesterday we talked about program level design and program level. If you end up at some point in the university believing that you can sacrifice your individual mini essays for bigger picture essays, reflective portfolios will be the way to go. And this is where you're going to do the big picture, which is they've done a smaller essay that it was very concise, but then together with the other 5 essays across the degree, they write a reflection about a bigger theme. What I wouldn't do is having 3,000 words essays and a 4,000 word reflection. They will hate it, they will associate it with something that is not worth. If you believe truly in reflection, which is meta level, meta thinking, the reflection should be good enough to cater for everything else, because they already done it. They read, they studied, they analyze, and they reflect about it. So yes, little steps. Other questions? Even from the online space, guys? There was one about action planning that you asked me?
No, it's just the templates. I think you've...
Okay.
I wanted to understand the templates more.
Yes. So the templates are instruments, and they are not copyrighted Macquarie templates. They are actually a selection of Macquarie University of templates that we've seen in the literature. So all of them, they will have the resources where they came from, but and there will be another 20 out. In areas of, there will be actually templates that they are used in the particular profession. Use them. Question?
Sorry, where do we download this?
This one?
Yeah, well, your tools.
You'll receive an email.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Also, if you just Google Macquarie University Reflection for Learning Resources, exists as a PDF. You can just straightforward get it, but you'll receive an email with information. Yes, for that. Also, don't forget Stephen Brookfield is a good name to remember. He has a number of templates and resources that will help you do it. So if you do reflection, I'm not suggesting run a 3 hours necessarily seminar with your students, but introduce little reflective activities throughout before you send them to the big end of doing a critical analysis. So they will feel comfortable thinking, observing, adding emotions, and then writing. And believe me, you will see when you get the reports back, within 5 minutes you know if they have done reflection or not. If it's going to feel very familiar to you, it's like everybody else's report, is not a reflection, it's an analysis. When they start adding their own little connections, that they should be different, we're all individuals, then you know they're the right track, and you'll provide the feedback. So the feedback is all about defensing, being open, reflecting, thinking, observing, being specific, which is an important part. There's a question from my colleague over there.
If you have, let's say, maybe 100 and more students, do you take reflection per group or individual reflection, because it takes time to go through and also to give feedback?
Feedback is a very important thing. Normally what you do with the feedback, if the reflection is like a writing piece of work, normally I will provide feedback in the form of reflection. So I write back to them my reflective cycle of their assignment. What did I observe? I observed a very unique piece of writing, but it's far from being reflection. Why? Because as I was reading it, I wouldn't find a single point where I felt that you personalize it. And then what does it mean? It means that you have to put additional work to do it. And how can you do it? I advise that you add more emotions. And then I always say, and by the way, this is a model of what you should have done. You keep this in yourself, so you can have actually feedback templates. And then using technology sometimes, you might be able to have a number of statements ready that you can push and pack. If you don't give feedback to reflection, you are killing it. Yeah, because that's the value of it. They are doing it because it's something, it's not just an ad hoc one piece of writing that goes in the 50 years of, I said yesterday, pile of information. It should be an ongoing thing. And it should be connection. It's not one ad hoc. It should be a connection. There's an action plan. That way is the now what. The next reflection will keep the action plan as a starting point. And they build. I don't know if that answers. Yeah?
You answer probably the second part, but I just wanted also to know if maybe you can consider a group perception instead of an individual perception.
Yes, as a reflective starting point.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
But then you have to be clear. you are not going to be doing critical reflection if you only have the individual perception. Yeah, which is fine. But if you want them to go deeper, to analyze and reflect on a bigger topic that has bigger implications, I will say that the individual perception is not only good enough. But a quick thing about how did you feel today and how you will act is spot on. So for analytical reflection and personalistic is okay. For critical reflection, we need to open it up. Yes.
Maybe just a comment. I think it's important for us as lecturers also to model reflection. So especially at the beginning. So I know of a lecturer that did her first class just by lecturing. She was coming in and reading from the PowerPoint. It was the first time. And then she went out and she actually said that that was the worst experience ever. I know this is wrong, but I'm going to reflect on this and do something else. And in the next class, she went in and she told the students how she reflected. And she showed them, and she told her that that was the worst thing that ever happened. And she's so sorry. She apologizes for that. So she really showed them how to reflect, and that's okay. And until the last evaluation, throughout the semester, the last class, they actually noted in the evaluations that was very important, not skill, but something that they always remember, that she could have realized that she did, and that she never ever should teach like that again, like that first class again. So it's also about you modeling how to reflect.
Yes. Some of the people of the personalistic reflection school, they will say that reflection is about these eureka moments. It should go to the level that you entertained an idea or a thought that you never thought about and came as part of this rigorous, complex, as you said at the beginning. If the reflection, you will know when they write for you to satisfy you. It's obvious, and that is feedback to them. Say, I know that what you write, I don't get the emotions, I don't get the scrutiny there. I just get a report. You know, if you just go, you can complete a critical incident like in 5 seconds by just writing what you believe. I loved your presentation, I love your slides, that kept me entertained. If you can explain to me why, then becomes a reflection. In the way, actually, I didn't enjoy it. I couldn't even see them because the screen was not playing well. And that's where you know. So I have faith that the complexity of them knowing what they do and you reading it, it becomes very obvious in the reflective school. Because it's such a distinct piece of writing, how it happens. Any other questions? I'm worrying about the time. It's over 12 now. So as I said, if you want to be part of this research, you can give me your pack. If not, keep it and then read it together with the paper and see what I mean and what type of research you can do. I'm all right. I will keep collecting this as we go because I also want to see whether there are international perspectives as well, like part of the educational systems and how people believe. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll do the last comment. Yes. And thank you. So Prof. Panos, thank you from our side, and I think I speak to every lecturer here for your presentations throughout the week. You've got excellent facilitation skills. That's what I've picked up, and I've learned from that the way you acknowledge everything, and not, that was really very good for me. I learned from that. And the resources that you gave us are wonderful, and the encouragement to use them, thank you so much for that. And if you need anything, we can also send Prof. Panos' email to you if you need to find out more. Otherwise, you can also come and talk to the Center for Teaching and Learning. And also, if something is sticking now in terms of something that you would like to do research on, like a scholarship of research in your teaching and learning, please do come talk to us and apply for that. And so thank you, Prof. Panos. We are very overwhelmed, and as you said, the emotions are now to go and make this our own, and I encourage you to do that. So while our 2 directors are here from Center for Teaching and Learning, I also want to thank them for the opportunity to bring Panos over. And to the technical team, I think they were amazing. They were just on on top of it the whole time. So thank you to you guys as well, Santi and Jan Paul. That was amazing. And everybody that joined us. We are very, very glad you were here. And the virtual people, thank you for your patience and engagement. This was a wonderful learning session, and thank you for the feedback that they've sent. And it's really good feedback to know that this system is actually working. So
thanks
wonderful.
a lot. And I have to say also thank you, extended thank you to your team. And to tell you that, you know, centers for learning and teaching, they do exist for these reasons, for actually making you equipped and being motivated to go and do things. So I consider them actually foundational things within any university. So make use of the brilliant people around and go and attend. And essentially, you potentially will become presenters yourselves in this kind of event. You know, you will give it a go. You'll go and talk about these methodologies. So keep this idea of scholarship, what you do, keep an eye, does it work? Is it working for the students? It is working for my university, for my class. And share this across the university is wonderful. Thank you very much for the opportunity, guys.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you.
And thanks to the online ones. Cheers, guys. Thank you.